Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I am so excited because right here in front of me is the all-new 2023 BMW M2 with a 6-speed manual transmission. For those of you who are unaware, the BMW M2 is one of my all-time favorite cars. I've always loved the formula of a smaller, simpler sort of M car. Oof, the new BMW XM starting up as well. That sounds a lot better than I expected. That's actually a hybrid V8 right there, and we've got the throttle house guys going. They're getting ready to have some fun. Wow. That's really cool. But today we're focused on this. That's tomorrow. This is today, the all-new M2. More power than ever before for the M2. This is the same motor that you get in the M3 and the M4, just detuned a little bit, but I bet you with some software witchcraft you could get it up to the same power figures. All new chassis, all new bodywork. I've always enjoyed the new 2 Series in general, whether that be the 230i, the M240i, but this promises to be one of the best ones. I do find it interesting though, quad exhaust on an inline 6. Isn't that a little strange to you? 460 horsepower coming out of this bad boy, twin turbo inline 6. It's gonna be a blast. So you're getting my raw first impressions right now. All new M2 specific color right here, this red. You've also got the blues down there as well, and we have the optional carbon fiber roof that's supposed to take about 10 to 12 pounds off the car, lower the center of gravity as well. This is truly the driver spec car. Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires specifically designed by BMW for this car. You can tell by the little star aspect on there. I'm excited to get driving this thing. I really am. M2 kick plate, these M carbon bucket seats with some fun coloring on there. That's pretty cool. And sliding in, familiarity. The shifter is the exact same BMW style shifter we all come to know and love. Let's do initial shift test. All right, a little bit lighter than I'd like. Pretty short throws, so that's cool, but not super notchy. It's not as satisfying even as the GR Corolla that we've got back at home base right now. $68,000 starting price for this car. Do we have a sticker in this one? We got something. What is this? Battery log form. That's probably not what we want. Warning vest. Wow, this is probably an actually German-built car. Ooh, look at that fun accent there. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's start it up. iDrive 8 screen in front of us. Still got the rotary knob, thank you for that. Okay, we're just gonna roll out of here in comfort mode, I suppose. Got our M buttons here that you can program for different driving styles. Climate menu, do we have heated seats? We do, let's get those running. Take off air conditioning. Off we go. You have rev matching for this manual transmission. Should be enabled by default, but you can disable it if you want to try doing your own heel towing. Bit of a large steering wheel. And initial steering impressions. Now there are 2 different steering modes, a comfort mode and a sport mode. In this comfort mode, it does have the classic BMW woolliness. It's mushy steering. Clutch throw, fairly light, pretty long as well. Already getting a little bit of wiggle right there. That's funny. It's gonna take a little bit to warm up these tires. 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's a little wet. Not sure how well it's gonna come up on camera, but we've got a really big head-up display right up on the windshield, and it's showing me all 3 lanes. It's actually telling me that for my next turn here in 0.3 miles, I do need to be in the right lane, and it's adapting the map. It's actually a map right up there on the windshield. That's pretty cool. Now, I've spent a decent amount of time in BMWs. We just had the X7 and the M340i, but how easily can I figure out how to adjust the height of the head-up display while also navigating. I'm gonna say home. And displays. Head-up display right there, that's pretty easy. And height, okay. Yeah, very nicely, very easy. And I can go right back to map by clicking that button, although...
Please follow the directional info on the display when leaving turn right.
Those buttons down here don't click very nicely. I wonder if that's a kind of a pre-production thing. Standard adaptive suspension in this car, but even in whatever comfort-oriented mode we're in right now, it's firm. I'm feeling a lot of the bumps in this road. Let's try turning on the active exhaust and sound control on. Too much. I think it actually already was on, maybe? Doesn't sound that different. Look at all the things you can change in the M setup screen. Engine, gear shift assistant, chassis, steering, brake. Cool. First part of this drive is going to be a little bit more of a commute style impression. Got a little bit of highway driving to do. This thing's actually really quiet in terms of wind noise. Take a listen. Barely hear anything. Not too bad with road noise either. It's hard to tell because I'm not familiar with this pavement, but it doesn't seem too bad. Alright, well, we've got a lot of driving to do today. Hour and 45 minutes till our lunch destination here, so catch up with you in a little while. Alright, been driving the car for about an hour now. Stopped at this beautiful Lake Pleasant here outside of Phoenix to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at the car. Some fun things to note that I've kind of picked up on from a static standpoint. First things first I want to mention is back here in the trunk. First of all, let's open up the seat, get that scooting forward. This new 2 Series is larger in just about every dimension than the outgoing 2 Series. A little bit longer, a little bit wider, although it is slightly bit shorter. Seems like every single car when it comes out, it's always got to get larger. But they say that that should add a little bit of room to the rear seats. Before we actually sit back there, which I have not done yet, I want to point out that the 2 Series can be pretty decently practical. The seat would need to go a little bit further forward, but you see you got this rear pass-through, and it's actually a 40-20-40 split fold, so you could actually leave this seat. Let's bring this up. You can bring that one down, kind of leave it whatever which way you want, but decent amount of room to put stuff through there, longer things if you wanted to daily this car. Let's come on back. This car's got a lot of options on it. Oh, headroom, not fantastic. 5'10". I cannot sit upright actually in any way, shape, or form. Sometimes these coupes, you can sort of put your head against the glass, but you cannot do that in this car. So if I were to ride back here, my foot room and knee room, actually not too bad, but not enough headroom to even stretch out my spine properly. I'd feel really claustrophobic in here after just a little bit of time. So I'd have to kind of sit sideways like this maybe. Looks like it's going to be a children-only zone back here, or maybe an Alyssa-only zone. But interesting enough, they still bother to put climate control back here, which I think is kind of silly. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have the vents, but I don't think they need their own little climate control display. I'd rather keep the weight and the cost down. But okay, put that back. Take a look under the hood. There it is. A lot of bracing, covering up this beautiful, glorious S58 motor. Nice. Yeah, I think this thing looks pretty cool. I've enjoyed driving it so far. This motor is so smooth that sometimes you get pulling out onto some higher speed roads, and you don't even feel the sensation of how fast you're going because it does it so effortlessly. But just a few things to look at statically here, and then we'll get back going. We do have the optional two-tone wheels. We've got the shadow line package, I believe, carbon package with the carbon roof, the adaptive headlights, LEDs in there. You can see the darker exhaust tips as well. Journalist spec, as Chris and I like to call it. Thank goodness they didn't do a powered trunk, though. All right, back to the road. Out here, driving the M2 on some amazing roads. Coming up into Prescott, Arizona. And I've actually just hit fuel reserve. I don't know how I've used up a quarter tank of fuel in just something like half an hour. But I better be cognizant of that, see how much further I actually need to make it, because that could get bad. But I have been absolutely throwing this thing around, and it does make me wonder what exactly the M2 is for at this point, because they've made it larger, they've given it the same engine as the M4 and the same wheelbase as the M4. I kind of wonder why you wouldn't just get an M4. I mean, aside from the price, obviously, but you're not getting as unique of a driving experience as you were with the previous M2. This really hunkers down and wants to hang out at higher speeds. It doesn't have much driving satisfaction at lower speeds. I'm stuck behind these motorcycles now, and anything under 60, 70 miles per hour just feels too easy. The steering doesn't weight up. It feels very computerized, artificial. The power is there, but it's not a satisfying cracks and burbles sort of lower speed power. It's more of a stretch your legs sort of power. Coming up to some awesome corners, and I think I'm just gonna let these motorcycles get some gap here so I can hit them. Tons of grip. I do think these Sport 4S's were the proper tire for this car. They feel right. The biggest story with the new M2 is traction. These 285s in the rear allow you to rotate around with such force and then get on the power so early. It really is incredible. BMW is saying that around the Nürburgring, the difference in lap time between the M4 and the M2 is much closer for this generation than it was for the previous, and I believe it. It almost feels like this is a rear all-wheel drive car with how much grip it has in the rear. incredibly capable. Not really sure how much I love the driving dynamics from a pure driver's standpoint. I think I really need to slide it around a bit more, and that's something I was kind of looking forward to doing here soon, but getting it on some corners where I could really hang it around and just see how the car reacts to that sort of driving, kind of being pushed over the limit. But a lot to like, but also some things to keep in mind. I don't think it's keeping with that car purist ethos that the M2 and before that the 1M was about. It has been 400 miles in the BMW M2. All sorts of driving scenarios. I've had stop and go traffic, smooth flowing highways, 4-lane roads that I have to pull out in front of like this. Oh, can I even do that? Yeah, that's a yield right there. Interesting. Okay. That's a pretty smart way to do that. I have had super tight twisties, I've had high speed rollers, lots of time to think about the M2. And I gotta say, I'm sorry, Jeff, Jay, Alex, any of you, if you watched this far, any of you BMW purists, it's not what I wanted it to be. It feels like just a little bit smaller M4, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted a driver's car. I wanted something that felt really fun and playful and more like the first M2, or even more so, more like the 1M. It's not what we're getting here. This feels very much like the sum of its parts. It shares a wheelbase with the M4. It shares an engine with the M4. This gearbox, I bet you, is very, very similar, if not the exact same one that you get in the M4. So why should I be too surprised when driving this thing? It feels like a 3,800 pound M4. I mean, the engineers tell me that it's supposed to be lighter and more fun to drive if you're back-to-back with this and the M4, and I believe them. I'm sure if I got out of an M4 and into this would feel more fun, but it feels too dialed in. It feels too confident, and for some of you maybe who haven't experienced a whole lot of different cars, you may be saying, well, what do you mean? Those all sound like great qualities. Yes, to some people, especially if you're going to be on track a lot, or if maybe you're a little bit more of a novice driver, you do want something precise. You do want something that's incredibly capable and has a ton of grip and is very quick. But I'm looking for a car in this class that is a little rough around the edges and satisfies you from a core raw communication between driver and car sort of experience. I don't want to name drop other brands, but there are other cars in this class that do that better. And if I'm going to sacrifice not even getting to have a usable rear seat and pay a good amount of money, that's just what I want from a car in this category. If I were spending all day out on track, yes, the BMW M2 here in 2023 would be a really, really good option. I was able to drive hours upon hours of tight, twisty roads and have a good time doing it. I wasn't tired. These carbon bucket seats held me in nicely. The car is very forgiving. It's very confident and capable. So none of that is bad. None of that's a knock against the car. It's just that if I'm getting a car like this, I kind of do want it to be a little tiring. I want it to make me work a little bit in order to have it be satisfying. And if I didn't want a car like that, I'd just get an M4. And I thought really hard about how I felt about the car before recording this wrap-up and kind of coming down on the car in that way. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt confident in saying that. One element of not feeling super excited by the car is the engine. The S58 is a very, very impressive powertrain, but when you detune it like this, what are you left with? I mean, you're left kind of just knowing that there are other cars that have this exact same engine that are faster. So unless you're going to tune it or something, you're kind of missing out on that. And this engine is so smooth and so refined. It doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't sound exciting. It's not an intoxicating audio note. So that's gonna wrap up my thoughts on the M2. I'm hoping to get a chance to drive the 8-speed car. I can't imagine it's gonna make it feel any more engaging. All right, we're getting a super quick spin in the automatic car. Pretty much only doing this just to make sure I can sort of speak on the car real fast, give you all a little bit of demonstration. It's nearly 6 o'clock. We're not gonna get to do anything fun and exciting, but just pull out on the road and see how it's different. Holy cow. That feels like an entirely different car. I think this is the better transmission option. I'm all for saving the manuals and everything. But between the gear ratios probably and the way that's just reacting. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still crazy fast. In fact, don't tell the Arizona police, but we're gonna do one of these real quick. Wow, okay. That's a lot of fun. I wish I got to drive this car more earlier. I wonder how it would have felt different out in the hills, because it does seem to pull a little stronger. I don't know if that's placebo or not, but that's interesting. Okay. That's neat. That's cool. It's still gonna keep the general ethos of the car, but it does feel more lively driving that around. They've done a lot of good stuff with the car. It's not for me. It's not for me. Definitely appreciated having the time with it, but I think I would pick a more driver-focused car in this class. And I think I'd pick the previous gen M2 as well. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the M2, I did shoot a little sound system test. We're gonna have a winding road video as well. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.